Choice Podcast Awards voting is up on the 31st of July, so go to podcastawards.com to nominate the following shows. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in the categories of education and also storyteller drama. The Centralist in the category of politics and news. That's with show host Joe Montaldo. Science and Beyond in the category of science and medicine, also with show host Joe Montaldo. The Outer Realm in the category of society culture, with show hosts Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. And the Pittsburgh Paranormal Chasing Prophecy in the category of religion and spirituality. There's another category that opened up for us recently, the People's Choice, so please select for this category as well. Go to podcastawards.com to vote for these 5 shows and any others you enjoy listening to. That's podcastawards.com. And remember, voting ends July 31st, so go ahead and get your votes in.
Go vote. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers, tongue twister. I've had a hard, long day, and Amelia Pisano. We're broadcasting right here via the International Public Radio on United Public Radio, 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. This evening's segment is fully sponsored by the amazing folks at Folgers. Here we go. Folgers. That's right.
Oh, anyway. I'm looking for my
That's right.
Folgers.
Exactly.
Looking for
and
my
I better show this and I'll be in trouble. My blood type is Folgers, just saying. So there we go. Lots of Folgers for everybody. Tonight, we welcome, of course, our friend and producer, Joe Montaldo, to the show. And he's going to be discussing the ancient Sumerians, the Anunnaki, ETs in general, because we all love it, at least on this network we do. In order to participate in tonight's show, at least here on YouTube, go to the International Public Radio and UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. Just if you want a direct response, International Public Radio. And of course, we're going to be streaming on Twitter and Twitch and all of the network's Facebook pages. So y'all have to have a little sit down and get ready for a good show and have a cup of Folgers. Yes, that's right. Just do it. And vote. Right? Podcastawards.com. Vote.
Yeah. And if you're a baker, the instant coffee is amazing to bake with, just saying. That's what you want to use when you're making chocolate cookies, ganache, any of that. That's what you want to use.
Ganache, I like it. Hey, Steve, nice to see you too. Steve helped move all of this colossal stuff.
Wow.
And his wife Casper came along. Oh no, it was bad. Everybody was heaving.
Steve, how's your back? How's your back, Steve?
Yeah, how's your back, Steve?
Oh my gosh.
Bad. Oh my God. This is heavy stuff. But hey, amazing.
I just want to sit on that throne.
There's a few. That one's coming to the house. The biggest one's coming to the house. Hey, Zach. Yeah, the biggest one's coming to the house for the bedroom.
Good.
And
I just want to sit on it. For the bedroom.
I know. You have to go to storage. You can try them all out. There's like 12 of them. And for those who don't understand what we're talking about, basically I was invited to clean house at an Oddfellows lodge. And you never get into these places. So, of course, I'm like, of course I'll do it. And I think I get to go back at the beginning of next week, just because of the fact that the 26-foot truck couldn't hold everything.
My God. They must be massive pieces.
They are massive
kind of truck.
Heavy pieces.
Yeah.
Heavy pieces. And they're all hand done, by inmates at the old Kingston Penitentiary, which is now closed down because they had a woodworking shop. So there's a lot of history around these pieces, not just from the Oddfellow standpoint, but from, the penitentiary standpoint. So, for me, it felt like a rescue mission more than anything, because I'm like if I don't take them,
what'll happen?
They really did. Yeah, they really didn't know everything. The building was sold. Everything was going. Mm-hmm. And there's just not that many members, Fun day. I'm doing good.
Hi, Zach. Just in case you didn't hear me.
And I'm grateful for you, Steve. Thank you. It was awesome. Wayne is unloading as we speak. Poor guy.
Poor guy.
Yeah, well, he has help. He has help from this end.
I know, but he's going to be hurting.
Oh, he's going to be hurting all the way. It's like, go get yourself some dinner, man. It's just going to be bad. So, but I will post pictures on the social media as I go, because I will have to part with some of it. I can't keep 9 couches.
Oh my gosh.
There's 9 of them.
Unless you buy a palace, a small palace.
Well, I'm trying to actually downsize. I'm not actually trying to upsize. I clear one storage unit, and then it's like I have to get another one.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes, "Okay, sorry."
Oh my God.
The idea is to downsize, and I have downsized a lot because you know how colossal my pieces are. So I just bring in more colossal pieces,
and then she just refills it. Kind of like my shoe closet, only on a bigger scale.
I can't. Yeah, I can't even talk about shoes, because when I got rid of the other house, I'm sure there was like at least 100 pairs of shoes that I just donated. Oh, because I'm just like me downsizing. I was like, good grief.
I've done multiple bags of garbage bags full where I've taken them to women's shelters, but some I can't take because I call them like pull shoes, because they want to help these women get back into work. So if you are getting rid of clothes, if you're getting rid of some clothes that are business casual, or you have some dress shoes that are, gently worn, don't send anything that needs repair, because they obviously can't do it. It's supposed to be charity. Or that you're not wearing, or if you see a pair of shoes that are a decent price that you can afford, buy them and drop them off at a women's shelter. Especially right now,
idea.
And they take clothing
maybe they'd like
that's
a couch.
Used. I don't know. You can try at Carol's over here, but I would drop stuff off there. But again, I had to be careful. My selection was limited because I don't have that many that are not 5-6 inch and up. So
yeah.
But
I
the
got rid
lower
of all
ones,
of it.
I did.
I
give
kept
them
about
there.
100 pairs, and I gave away.
Yeah. I remember when I left Toronto, because I worked in an office, and I came here and I was working from home for John.
You don't need it.
I didn't need the clothes or the shoes, because obviously I wasn't wearing 6-inch heels at work in an office. I mean, back then, oh my God, so long ago, we had a dress code, unlike today. So anyways, so the shoes were like 3-4 inch, and I gave a whole bunch away, and I brought the clothes, and they were so grateful for the clothes. I'm like, yeah, it would be too, because they were really good quality. But I was happy that I wasn't tossing these or just putting them in a Goodwill box. Not that Goodwill's a bad idea, but I do drop a lot of stuff off there. But that I could contribute in someone's next step and fresh start was a beautiful feeling, without them even knowing I had anything to do with it, which is my favorite kind.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
Yes, Steve, it'll be a beginning of the week. And thank you for offering. I'll bring the wine.
There you go. That'll help.
Costing me some vampire wine. Yeah, I'll do it.
Not have any pain.
Exactly. But tonight we're talking ancient Sumerians, Anunnaki, extraterrestrials. As soon as Joe wants to get his butt on the show, we talk like that because he's our producer. He's our friend. So he's a guest tonight. But
he's a guest tonight. He's an incredible man with a lot of experience.
He's probably making himself look all like handsome. He is.
Pretty.
And we cover a lot of this stuff when we do the Gray Zone Uncensored on Saturdays. And a lot of people are just like,
Welcome, Joe Montaldo.
There he is. People are just like, well, we want to listen to the archives. We're like, no archives. So we'll probably touch on a little bit of that tonight. So there he is, looking all dapper.
Jojo. No mic.
Can't hear you,
voice.
man. Can't hear you, man.
Unmute.
You do this all the time.
It always helps when you unmute the mic. I always forget this one's muted for some reason. I guess I'll leave it like that so nobody hear my conversations in the house. I already got Alexa and Siri listened. Oh, I didn't tell you all about this. So the other night, I asked Alexa a question, and Siri answered her. So Siri and Alexa started having a conversation again. I'm not shitting. Nice. For like 3 minutes, they're talking to each other. I'm like, really? So now a
That's
couple of
just so
times,
stupid.
Siri has answered me while I'm talking on the air. If I got my phone in here, and
Oh,
I don't even have it set. I have it set where you have to double push the button for it to even work.
I've turned off completely.
I'm like, Siri, mind your own bitchin' business now. I mean, come on.
Yeah. When you say the word seriously, Siri comes up. And I don't know why. Unless
I think
they
Siri's just got a
knew
crush
when they
on me.
named
That's all.
Turned
Siri.
off completely. Don't even do
Yeah.
it.
I think
Don't
they
even do it.
knew that we would speak it the way you say seriously, like certain words. I really believe there's something behind that.
Me too.
But
That's a whole other show.
yeah, it really is.
I asked Alexa a complicated question the other day, and she gave me a complicated answer. I was stunned.
Wow.
Of course, she was probably reading from Wiki, but still.
Wow.
So I wrote to Amazon and said, please stop using Wikipedia as your knowledge base because Wikipedia is about half wrong. It's as wrong as it is right.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they won't let me on Wiki. I'm banned from Wiki. I'm serious. I'm banned from Wiki. I don't even know why.
And why
I'm
did you
laughing
correct
because
them?
I figured you probably tried to sue them or piss them off or something.
No, I didn't do anything.
Did you
Somebody put
correct-
up a page, about me, and Wiki wrote to me and said, "Is it okay?" I said, "Yeah." And then they wrote me back saying, "Well, self-promotion," and they took it down. I'm like, wrote them back and said, "Why? I didn't put up the page." I said, "You got the IP address." I said, "You can
So
see mine
stupid.
here. You can see." I'm like, "Whatever." And then I mentioned in several other alien abduction things, and every time somebody puts me on, they take me out. It's probably not Wiki. It's just probably somebody who hates me. But over the years, I've managed to piss
because
off a few people.
Who could hate you? Seriously.
They can, if somebody disagrees with one of your comments and puts up enough of a fight, yeah, that's a huge possibility.
They just, they always want to keep the truth hidden. That's part of the problem. And hello, Frog. This frog has moved into the studio, I guess. I hear it like every other night now, just chirping away.
It's a
It's
season
gonna keep
for
it.
them, isn't
It's
it?
going to keep it. Well, when I first bought this house, it was like 4 days after we got into it. We came home one night. The whole house was covered in green frogs. The whole fucking entire house, front, back, sides, everything. It was just weird. I'm like, man, some witches living there, something that I don't know about. Really pretty frogs. I'm like, yeah, okay, but they covered the house. Now I see them fewer and fewer every year because we live here now, and the house is warm. So when they attach themselves to the wall, it doesn't feel the same to them. But I still see them. They'll pop up from time to time, and I'm like, now if I leave and come back, if I'm gone for a couple of weeks and come back and leave the house, on its normal, they'll be all over the place. Same thing with the eagle. Don't like to hang out too much. Ever since Charlie tried to eat it, I'm like, it's just a full-fledged eagle. This thing is like 3 foot tall, 2 foot wide. The little chihuahuas out there, I'm going to eat you. So now it goes down to the beast and fishes down there. My 2 ospreys stay. I got a breeding pair of ospreys. They come in twice a year. They right after they breed, they come in and they fish off my tree out there. So I know that's how I knew it was good fishing when I first moved in. I found a fish carcass on my patio about 4 foot long. I'm like, where the hell? How did this get up here? And then I realized ospreys. Yeah, ospreys were eating on my patio. I'm like, y'all can't eat here. And they ignored the dogs. They didn't care if the dogs barked at them or not. The hawks used to come over, but they didn't like to. See, it was so funny. I had these 4 hawks who came in 2 pairs. You see Maxie out there one day. Now, Maxie's like, 6 inches tall, 5 pounds, 4.5 really, soaking wet at that. So he's running around the yard. More, you see one of them coming down. Charlie was standing on the side. Charlie come out there on his hind legs, just. The bird was like, whoa, wait a minute now. Is it worth getting eaten? Because he has no qualms. He was going to
fighting back.
He hated birds. He was like 4 months when a seagull tried to eat him, and it tried to take him off the ground, eat him, and he was ever since then he hates birds. A seagull of all things. Now I've seen pelicans eat dogs and cats and all sorts of shit. In case y'all know, ladies and gentlemen, if you're out surfing or you're out in pretty water with your little dog, your little cat, a pelican will eat them. Oh, I'm afraid to.
You got to keep your eye and keep yourself close to them.
Yeah. And the other thing you got to worry about is coyotes. My favorite video, this coyote runs up and grabs his chihuahua and is headed for the woods. He had a Roddy as a buddy. The Roddy comes flying out the door, just knocks the wolf down, grabs his buddy, brings him back, and goes after the wolf. This guy was like, whoa, wait a minute. It ain't worth the dinner. It's just not worth the dinner. It was actually a coyote, but still. It was great to see it. And then I seen one coyote was going to grab a kid and a little cat. Couldn't have been more than 10 pounds when it ate crap on the coyote. The coyote just finally, I thought the coyote was going to try to eat the cat, and the cat was like, you ain't getting nobody.
Wow.
That's what happens when you live on the edge of the woods and you leave your kid
Don't
out
like
on the
to
stroll.
be challenged.
I mean, it was crazy. I've seen some cats do some crazy stuff over the years, man. I've also seen some cats get eaten too, so you don't want to see that. And then I had to ban 2 people from my page because they kept sending me pictures of dogs sliding in the water and getting eaten by crocodiles. I was like, really? I said, you're banned.
My neighbor's chicken got loose because I have the farm next door. Got loose, and
would have been chickens
these
too.
2 vultures came down while it was walking up the driveway to go back. Came down, and I witnessed that. I fell to my knees crying, no word of a lie. Like, I was just like, so.
I've seen weird stuff like that.
It's the circle of life, unfortunately.
I know, but it's like PTSD the way they went at it. It was just like so pretty and big, fluffy white when it wasn't a regular chicken. It was an ornamental. It was gorgeous. And I just went, oh my God. I had named her because she was in my garage and everything. You know, she was coming in. I would open the door when it was raining.
You never name your food, rule 1.
What food? I didn't eat her.
You eat chickens.
But I don't, like, I think that was a pet. I don't think they slaughter anything. You hear them all the time, right? And it broke my heart.
It's weird. I was actually walking I had an apartment across the street from my office. I mean, literally, we're talking 25 feet. So I'm walking across the street, and a sparrow just swoops down. And as I was walking, it had to bear off, and what it did, a crow grabbed it right in front of me. I was like, well, it wouldn't have been for me. It might have got away, but it became crow food. Yeah, crows are serious predator birds. Them and ravens, they'll eat anything they can get their hands on. They'll fight any bird. But you know what? I've watched mockingbirds and really small birds go after them. They're like, we're not going out without a fight. You're not getting our eggs. And crows don't care. They're big birds. So
the only
thing they got to worry about is another big bird.
Hawks you can pay attention to because they're a creature of habit. So they'll fly around at the same time of day looking for their meal. So I know better than to leave my dog outside by himself between 3:30 and 4 because I know that thing's flying over my yard, you know? So, yeah, you got to pay attention to all that stuff, especially when you're in the bush, so to speak.
Yeah, well, yeah, when you live on the edge of the woods or in the woods.
Yeah.
And then I got to worry about alligators here. They'll come up the bayou and say, hey, they don't come down often because we usually have too much saltwater intrusion into the bayou. But with all this rain we've been having, you'll see one going down, headed to the Gulf, just cruising on down. You know, it's really fresh water. You got to watch them because they will. Because what happens is alligators like slides, you know, mud slides. That's how they get in and out of the water. Well, everybody here has a boat launch. As far as they're concerned, it's just another big mudslide. So they come walking up the slide and into your yard. I had 2 of them do that. I said, really? I went out with a pole, so I beat one in the head. I said, go away before I shoot you. And it's making all kind of hissing noises, swinging its tail at me. I said, if I hit you again, you don't go away. You're going to be a suitcase. And I think it got the idea. Actually, one of them was funny as hell. He was about 9 feet. He was about 9 feet, and he came up the thing, and I pulled the slide back in the gun, and he actually turned around and left.
So he knows the sound.
I was looking for
I have more satisfaction wearing boots.
That's what I'm saying. I was looking for a new pair of boots.
Sorry to all you vegans out there listening.
Hey, alligator makes pretty boots. Not quite as pretty as crocodile, but they're pretty. And baby crocodiles, soft.
No babies. Nice. No babies. Do they eat ETs or Sumerians? Did they eat Sumerians? Were they around at the time of Sumerians?
Yeah, they were around. They were around before the Sumerians. They will eat anything.
Just a small segue, but it didn't work.
They will eat each other.
Yeah.
Oh, no, because I would imagine, you know, I was thinking one of the biblical things back, you know, Jesus was parting the water and floating across the water. See, down here, a croc would have just got him. It would have never been no second coming.
Maybe he was walking on the backs of crocs.
He might have been. It's one of them things. You know, I get a lot of weird emails about religious stuff and stuff from the past. And because, you know, I always tell people the same thing. If you're going to get into the field, you followed your abduction research, you need to start as far back in history as you can. You need to go way, 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 way back. And before Christ, before the Romans even. You can find stories that from like the Vikings. There's a particular cave drawing. There's one in the United States that's right around 6,500 years old. What it is it's a three dish-shaped things in the sky with some Indians chasing some buffalo. When one of the saucers looks in a lead, it looks like a beam of light came out and just knocked out like 20 or 30 buffaloes. So they just took them. Well, there's an identical picture of that dates 55,000 years in a cave in Europe. The only difference is it was replaced with a herd of deer instead of a herd of buffalo. Same picture there. It's crazy. Nobody likes to talk about it because nobody can explain it. They're like, well, you know, it's awful weird. But if you go looking at the Pueblos or any of the ancient tribes prior to the Native Americans, you'll see they have rooms that look like spaceships. They got one on I forgot the name of the rock it is. It looks like it looks just like a giant spaceship. It's whatever the rooms are shaped like that. It even looks like the rooms inside were identical probably to the rooms inside the ship. It's a very strange thing. But these are Indians that predate Native Americans. People always forget that there was Indians before what we consider Native Americans. There were Indians before them. And then you got the Mesoamericans, which are much older than Native Americans. And then you've got all that weirdness with South America. 98% of everybody's blood down there. I mean, well, why is that?
Why is that?
So I got into it. I got into it with a professor about this at Tulane. I went to attend a physics lecture, and it ended up being a different kind of lecture, but I stayed anyway. So he's going on and on about us, and I was like, well, none of that makes any sense. It's like, you sure that's how things worked out? I said, none of this made any sense to me at all. I always had an alternate explanation, of course, which made the professor extremely mad. What was that flashing on my screen? I'm like, y'all can't be flashing stuff on my screen.
Here we go.
I got
Chat room.
I don't even know what that was. It was, so somebody, what, half a moon? It's a full moon tomorrow night. Okay, no more crack for the people. But,
cheers, Joe.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, I need some cheers, man. Like a nice Irish coffee with a double shot in it.
As long as it's a Folgers.
As long as it's a Folgers.
It can be Folgers. Yeah, I love Folgers. It can be Folgers. I drink I drink black silk all the time. Oh, I love that black silk.
That's it.
It's good. It's kind of got a little bite to it. It reminds me of home style.
It's nice.
Well, it is home style coffee, but I like coffee with a bite to it. Yes.
Yeah.
But getting back to all the ancient worlds. Well, there's so many explanations for. I was listening to Chase and Prophecy a little while ago. The girl was talking about the moon probably had aliens in it, and how the Sumerians were the Anunnakis, and I'm thinking, well, do y'all really know what the Anunnakis are? They weren't humans. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Who gave Eve the apple? A serpent, a reptile gave Eve the apple.
I would think it's a reptilian.
And then if you go right over to the Dogon, which were existing at the same time as Sumerians and the Egyptians, who were they talking about? They were talking about Nemos, the reptilians. The Egyptians also talked about two types of aliens, which the reptilians and the humans, which had those weird shaped heads, which is awful strange because the Egyptians had those heads. At least 5 pharaohs did.
They did.
Right? Like,
and they tried to.
That.
Well, they tried to say it was this disease or that disease, but they never could find any proof of the disease other than the shape of the head. So then you take that. If you take one of their skulls and you fly over to the Nazcans and you go down there and look how they were boarding their children, oh my shit, it's the same skull. So wait, why were the Nazcans boarding their children to make their skulls look like that? Which they never met any Egyptians. They've never been to Egypt. No. As far as I know, according to our history, there was no travel between the two continents back then.
No.
And sorry, someone argued that, they're binding them because some cultures bind the head. But it doesn't explain the mass. But it doesn't explain the mass of the skull.
But the Nazcans actually
heads that are bound are more narrow, where these skulls are wide and substantial, not just elongated.
Was the more famous for having an elongated skull, and they said Nefertiti as well. Yeah. But you look at Akhenaten, and he wasn't even shaped normal. Like he had a very peculiar body shape. Like
right, really super long arms. Yeah,
but the DNA didn't agree with
everything.
All of it is strange. And then, like I said, then you go to a whole nother society and a whole nother side of the world, and they're doing the same thing. But what's nice about the Nazcans, they actually left writings on why they did it. They said they were trying to make their children look like their gods. So they were trying to shape their heads like the gods' heads. So you've got an Egyptian that apparently got a god's head like the head down here. The Egyptian was probably some type of interbreeding. And we know, according to the Bible, the daughters of men, the angels were bad. They came down and made little babies. And those babies were probably special because they were enlightened. The whole thing is creepy weird, and it's like the moon thing. The moon is hollow. I mean, it pings. When we hit it with something, it rings. Nobody can explain that. Oh yeah, they've actually. The first time
didn't it just go off course or something? I read something.
It's going.
That's because Jeff Bezos was in the air.
Yeah, it's going to change on.
I just read that it just changed, and apparently scientists are all like, "What?"
It wobbled.
Yeah, it moved just for him.
There we go.
So,
okay.
But we won't feel the effect until 2030. That's when we'll feel the effect.
Oh God!
Wobble.
I'll just think
they're
it's
say it's going to
at
cause
that point.
tsunamis and tidal waves and all kind of weirdness with the moon. I'm like, wait a minute.
Absolutely.
Why is it going to take 10 years? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm confused now. So it wobbled yesterday, but 9.5 years from now is when we're going to feel it. That doesn't even make any sense to me. I know enough about science that just does not make any sense to me. So if it wobbled, we should be feeling the effects right away. Because if the moon,
even though it's so far away,
it's not that far away. It's
no. It reacts to. It can affect ocean currents. It can affect our moods because we're made of water and energy. So
we know it affects women's cycles all the time. So
yeah,
it's just the moon. The moon is there. Without the moon, our planet would not be what it is. No. So that's why a lot of people thought it was brought here and parked here, because we wouldn't have tidal action. And without tidal action, we wouldn't have convection currents. And without them, we would die of starvation and no oxygen. So that's what people always get to me when they talk about global warming and stuff. They don't realize the rainforest will suffocate. No, we won't, because most of the oxygen does not come from the rainforest. Matter of fact, in case y'all didn't know this, ladies and gentlemen, most of the oxygen do not even come from the surface land at all. It makes up about 15% of the world's oxygen. Most of it comes from the ocean, from the plankton in the ocean. The ocean dies, guess what? We die. I think people got a little confused on what they thought we need to be doing. No, we need to be protecting the ocean. The land will survive. As long as the ocean's intact, the land will survive. And now we're talking about planting these super oxygen generating trees all over the planet. They're saying one continent would be enough to keep us in. The reason they're testing this stuff they want to put on Mars and any place that they think we can grow these later on to produce oxygen. The problem with Mars is, though, there's not a strong enough atmosphere to keep it in there. It's going to bleed off. It's where most of the water, where it's more, and there's no gravity. I mean, well, it's one third, but so. Like if your car got it flat, I could just lift the side up, take off the nuts, put the tire back on. You're like mini Superman on Mars. That's why Elon wants to go there. He's just a little runt here, but on Mars he'd be Mighty Mouse.
That's all Elon wants to do. He wants to be the first. He wants to be the man in charge. He wants to be
Donald Trump. Well, wait, Elon, I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry.
He named his car after Tesla. I posted this post about Bezos hitting space, and Facebook didn't let anyone see it. I just deleted it. I couldn't believe it wasn't visible. But he said, he made a comment, and you can Google this if you're at home, that, and it was so appalling that the media hit it right away. He said that we should send all industry out to Mars and leave it on one thing and let it pollute space rather than killing our world. I'm like,
well, yeah,
it'll take about 10 years, but we should do that. And the media went nuts. They just went nuts. I'm like, what the hell? That's not a comment you give right up. I said, what was he smoking on that voyage? That's all I want to know.
It's not like we can kill it. It's already a dead planet. So
it is a dead planet. So
it's a dead planet. And by
it's sort of futile. Why not do another?
Well, no, by using high radiation on. See, this is what people don't understand. No, what people don't understand, by using high radiation on Mars, it will thicken the atmosphere, so we won't have to wear suits. All we have to wear is breathing apparatus. So that's one of the things they want to do. They want to start taking icebergs and ice cubes from deep out in the Oort cloud and aiming them at us. Not at us, but at Mars. So they crash into Mars. They'll do two things. It'll help heat up the atmosphere and bring water. So you keep doing that for about 100 years, Mars will develop an atmosphere that we can walk around on and do what we want. We still won't be able to breathe on it, but it'll be regular pressure. See, right now we have two big problems with Mars. We have to wear big bulky suits because the pressure will kill us, and there's no oxygen atmosphere.
And how does time go on Mars?
It's they're at, so what are they? Oh, their year is, I think their year is 3 of ours or 4 of ours. I'd have to look it up to be sure. And,
I knew it was something obscure.
And then they have a 24.25-hour day, and we have a 23.75-hour days. So there's a half-hour difference, but the human biological clock is set to 24.25. I asked Mother Nature, I said, Guy, what the hell, were you drunk? I mean, what's going on? How come our biological clock fits another planet, not our own planet? And why is the optimal body temperature for humans to work in not on this planet? It would have been on Mars 50 million years ago.
Because that's where we came from.
More than likely, our original descendants came from there. There's probably the Atlanteans. They probably left when they couldn't live on Mars anymore. They brought their technology. They probably either found a continent out there or put a floating ship out there, whatever it was. They probably brought a lot of life to this planet from their own planet. And then, there was a disaster and something happened. They lost their technology. Well, same with humans. In 200 years from now, almost all of our knowledge would be digital. One big EMP pulse puts us all back to the Stone Age. If you can't find any books, that's it. We're done. We'll all be back to Stone Age, starting from scratch. And that might have been what happened then. That's why you might have seen the advanced pyramids and advanced building in Egypt and where the Toltecs in South America, because that was all they could do. They didn't have any electronic equipment. Because we even had, people don't realize, but electricity was discovered 2,400 years ago. I know Benji, I don't want to hate on you, dude, because you discovered it in a unique way by flying a kite with a key. I would have never done that. But still,
I was wondering who you were talking to until you
said
key.
About Benjamin.
And then I'm like, okay,
Benji, man. He's on all of our $100 bills. But but it was actually discovered in the Middle East in 2400, I think it was. Somebody was using it to electroplate gold onto jewelry. And all they were using was 2 fruit juice cans with 2 things in it, and they would tie them together and it would create electricity and make electroplate with it. That was ingenious. It was 2,400 years ago. And we don't even know what was lost in the Library of Alexandria. They probably knew about aliens. But there's so much of our knowledge has been wiped out either by ignorant religious people, which is, or by war, or by tsunamis and stuff like that. We don't know, if you believe in the biblical flood, we don't know what was lost doing then. We don't know what knowledge was lost. Anyway it goes, religion is responsible for setting us back 1,000 years.
I just have to intervene. I'm sorry, 1 minute. Somebody just messaged me. We're not on Facebook. You guys are looking for us on Facebook?
I see all it says. We're all on everything.
Okay, I don't know.
We're on Facebook, my personal page. We're on iCar. We're on News on the Flip Side. We're on UFO.
Maybe they're looking on Outer Realm. We don't have it on Outer Realm.
But speaking about that, we did our first test with letting the host use StreamYard today. It worked quite well. And the reason I want to start doing this is because y'all can add your own page in. So we'll still have 7 of my pages and 1 of y'all's. It's going to be more interesting. I've been wanting to do that for a while, but since I don't have control, y'all have control. Y'all can do it yourselves. Who did it tonight?
Yeah, we're not on it. Sorry, I just checked it. We're not on any of the Facebooks.
We started on time. That's weird. We all got big checks by them.
Yeah, it was there.
We all got big checks. Yeah, it says you're live. You're live. You're live. You're live. You're live. You're live.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to get back to this person. I don't know.
Okay. I was watching all about Samaria.
I don't see us live anywhere. Sorry.
I do. I'm actually listening to us.
Yeah, we're live on Facebook through
we're live.
Through YouTube, but not on the Facebook pages themselves. Sorry.
Let me. I can't take myself twice. It was driving me crazy.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm just saying. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying. Yeah, I see it.
Now, if they're on your page, they won't see it. So it depends what page you're on. We're on 5 Facebook pages, 2 YouTube pages, and Twitch.
Yeah, I don't know. Then I don't know what's up with them. Sorry, I just had to intervene because it's like a technical difficulty from somebody's end.
And sometimes it happens. And we were close tonight. We were only 3 minutes before we were live. So
that's okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. But anyway, going back in time again. So if you look at the Sumerians and you look at the Egyptians and you look at the Dogon, they were talking about reptilians and some humans. So both the Sumerians and the Egyptian have both in their lore. The reptilians, humans, both. And then the Dogon only talk about the reptilians. But so let's look at this from a different point of view because everybody wants to hate reptiles today. So the reptile in the Bible gave them knowledge. What was the first thing Eve did, ladies and gentlemen? Anybody knows what the very first thing Eve did was when she got the knowledge? She put a fig leaf covering her vital parts. You know what that meant? It means before then she was not self-aware or conscious of herself. But after the knowledge, she became self-aware. That's a big thing. The Dogon also say that the reptilians brought self-awareness, and so did the Egyptians. So we have 3 ancient cultures. 2 of the oldest cultures to ever exist on our planet both agree with this. you got to wonder. So when you come forward, if you go to the Toltecs, the Mayans, the Aztecs, they believed in the reptilians were kind and wonderful and did good things for them. They were bare to life. All their stories all have good things about the reptilians. Most of the alien cultures most of the human cultures prior to Christ all talk good about reptilians. It wasn't until he was born that it changed. All of a sudden, overnight, all the new species thought the reptilians were evil and here to eat us. But also, people were becoming more educated. Back then, a lot of people didn't even know what a crocodile was. You could only find them, in certain places in the Americas, which wasn't inhabited at the time, in places like Australia, which were only inhabited by Aborigines at the time. So it wasn't until later on, after Christ, what we call the second era, AD, actually, that we started learning about what reptilians are. We learned about what dinosaurs were and raptors, and they were mean and hungry and wanted to eat your ass. Dinosaurs and alligators and snakes wanted to kill you and eat you. There was no kindness in any of them. So how could a reptilian culture actually be kind with every reptilian on our planet being, well, I want to eat you? Because they were evolved. They had evolved out of that and into a more human type state. And they were, most people will tell you that the reptilians are an agrarian society for the most part. They don't want to eat us. They don't want to kill us. For the most part, they do want to give us knowledge. But for some reason, we've forsaken that knowledge because we're scared of reptiles. Now, reptilian contactees aren't, because they've learned that that's not what it is. And then there's the other thing with the reptiles, and it drives me crazy. I get these women and these men who will write to me and tell me about this massive love affair they're having. This beautiful, ungodly being has to be angelic-like. Two of them went on airplane trips with them. So whatever it is, however they transform themselves, they can do it so everybody sees it. And they're not physically transforming themselves, because under hypnosis, you can actually see what they are. So the very first time I ever did hypnosis on this was about right after I learned hypnosis, about 27, 28 years ago. So I sat down with this lady, and she's telling me all about this being. I said, let me hypnotize you. And so I get her under, and I said, tell me about the being. And she's telling me how beautiful it is. I said, well, can you do me a favor? Just run your hand up his arm and tell me what you feel. And she goes, well, it kind of feels cool and like a suede touch to it. So I said, so it doesn't feel warm. So when you touch your fellow human, your hand feels warm to the touch, because we're 98 degrees. So she's like, it's weird. It doesn't feel the same thing. I said, just run it down and grab one of his fingers and just work your way down to his fingernail and tell me what you feel. And she goes, it feels kind of rounded and pointed at the end. I said, well, it's not like a human nail. And right then I said, just open your eyes and tell me what you see. She flipped out. I mean, she flipped out. I flipped out. Everybody in the room flipped out, because she just starts screaming about this monster crocodile on two legs. I was like, so I got her calmed down, and we went back through it. I said, well, obviously he loves you. He's never done anything to hurt you. And I said, he's disguised himself so you wouldn't be in fear of him, which then she didn't know what to think. She was like, well, it's true. He's never tried to harm me. And I ain't going to get into some of the other stuff she said, because it's a PG-17 show. You don't need to hear this stuff. But
is it?
Yes. It's so anyway, I mean, it got quite heated when she was telling me about it. And I was like, well, so you still love him, even though you know he's a reptile? I said, so next time you meet him, you'll see him for himself. I said, so be aware, because it's going to probably be a shocker to you. So I get a phone call. It was like 3 weeks later. She's freaked out. God, she's using language, all kind of language. She said, Joe, he's got to be 7.5 foot tall. He's twice as wide as my husband, which this lady was married, by the way. And she had a big husband. He was about 6'3", 280, 290. And he said he makes him look like just a dwarf. She said he's huge, and he's so gentle with me and so kind. And I was like, well, I said, I said, why don't you ask him what he wants to show you, what you want to do? So after that, she started realizing that she could have a conversation with him in his form and not be scared. But anytime they wanted to do a wild thing, he had to, do whatever image he was using to keep her out of it. And so I started hearing this from guys. I'm like, what? I said, wait, y'all. First quick question. I said, what are you, gay? And they're like, no, it's female reptilian. Well, females. And I said, let me hypnotize you and see what we find. It was almost identical story. So it bothered me because, I'd always heard these stories about these, like Hitler's people, the fair-haired, blue-eyed angels who would go around and make love with Earth women and Earth men. Come to find out, well, guess what? It wasn't the human aliens, it was the reptilians. So I'm not even sure when Hitler was talking in his book Von Kampf, when he talks about these fair-haired, blue-eyed angels, I always assumed they were the human aliens with the big heads, but I might be wrong. It might have been reptilian. So got to kind of put back a little bit there and kind of think about what was going on. But like I was listening to this lady talk about Samaria today, and she never took in consideration that the Sumerians talk about the reptilians a great deal. So the Egyptians have several reptilian gods. So did the Sumerians. And their reptilian gods were good. They weren't evil. They didn't come here to eat you or betray you. It was the human and dog-like gods that were the evil ones. You figure it out. And the Sumerians also had the 7 creation mans. But really what bothers me about all of this is going back to Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve were basically dumb. This is what gets me in trouble with the religious people. I said, well, God created 2 of the dumbest people on the planet. I said, they didn't even know what they were doing. They never questioned anything. They just walked around in the garden stoned out of their mind. So all of a sudden a serpent appears in the garden, gives Eve an apple, and she becomes immediately self-aware of not just herself, but Adam and everything around her. It changed her life. I said, well, she got kicked out of Eden for it. I said, yeah, because she wanted to leave. She didn't want to stay there anymore. I said, she had now become self-aware. Well, unfortunately for Christians, this story happens a lot of times and way before the Christians wrote it. It is in at least 100 different cultures where the reptilians brought sentience to the humans. Almost all the Mesoamerican tribes, even Native American tribes, have these same stories. And these stories were at least 5,000 years before Christ. So you figure out what was going on. Not just that, the great flood of Noah happened way before Christianity even existed, even before the Old Testament. It dates back to a lot of older cultures. So I always tell people, be careful when you read anything written by men for the control of men. And what I mean by this, people, is you can be spiritual, but being religious can be dangerous. Because you don't know who actually wrote it. Because people tell me, well, it was inspired by God. I said, really? Were you there? Did you see God say, go write this? I said, no, you didn't. I said, and you know what cracks me up? Nobody knows who wrote Revelations. So in case y'all know this, ladies and gentlemen, because I know a lot of you don't pay attention in church, you fall asleep. The guy who wrote Revelations was put in a 55-gallon drum of boiling oil and boiled, and then dropped out and rolled into sand. And then he wrote Revelations. Yes. He was a madman, insane out of his mind is what he was. Whether it's true or not, we're going to find out one day. But really, I mean, you know how much pain he had to be in? God only knows. But the point being is none of this was directly written by God. As far as I know, and we got to go by Moses on this, the only thing written in God's hand was the 10 Commandments. And the Testament kind of hints around that there might have been more than 10.
Over 800 I read in the Old Testament, I believe.
That's what I'm saying.
It was something really extreme. And like, how's anybody supposed to freaking get that around their heads?
How did they pick only those 10? Like, I'm offended.
Well, I'm just
saying that's what
because
the church
I broke a
brings
few,
to
but
us.
you know.
Well, I'm just saying that's what the church brings to us. So knowing this kind of changes your view on religion itself. And I tell people this all the time, don't get upset, get spiritual. You can worship God. I said, just go by what the St. Thomas Epistle says. Split a log there, split a rock there. You don't need to go to church. You can pray from your house. You can pray with your friends. All you have to do is recognize God and Jesus for what they are. You don't have to go to a church, though, to go. Now, I know you Catholics like this extra unction shit because y'all going to be bad all your life. And at the end, you're going to go, please give me extra unction so I can hang out for a while. I don't know if that's the way to go, people. Just I'd be careful with that. But the point is the Adam and Eve story appears at least 100 times beside with Adam and Eve, and long before Christians ever existed on the planet. So you do the math and figure out who was telling the real stories here. A lot of these stories were taken from cultures prior to Christianity or Judaism.
Especially the pagans.
Yeah, so, you know, and we all know how much of our holidays are laid on pagan holidays.
Yes.
So the problem here is, you know, somebody was grabbing power, and they used all of this to grab more power. And they're great stories, but saying they're any more than stories is tough. It just seems like the reptilians brought freedom to man. They made us self-aware. They made us sentient. And again, and this just yesterday, this lady's cussing me. I do not have a reptilian section of my brain. So yeah, you do. Oh, no, I don't. I could not be stinking. She just went off on me. So I said, really? I said, hold on. Yeah, let me send you this link. Oh, that could be. And I said, oh, I'll send you a science link. Here you go. I said, here, I'll send you another science link. Then she just got all quiet. She said, "It can't be true." I said, "It is true." I said, and it's what's scary about it. It's what makes us us. Without it, we would be just a bunch of wimpy asses. We would be controlled species. It's what keeps us alive and well and functioning. And it doesn't make us evil. It just makes us self-aware of what's going on around us. So without it, we would be a much different species. And according to the Sumerians, the Egyptians, and the Dogon, the reptilians gave us this to break us to bonds of slavery.
There's still some people sort of hit and miss with that. If you ever heard, I'm going to touch on this on the Gray Zone when we do the show Saturday, but I'm just going to give a small portion of this. But there was a man named Credo Mutwa out of South Africa, and he's an African Zulu Sangama, like a shaman, I guess, or like, a chief. He's a traditional healer. Now, he carries down his oral traditions, from his ancestors, and they speak of a specific alien invasion, which were essentially reptilians. And he basically talks about how they came down in his old rickety ship and that they needed to come and land here on Earth. And without getting into any of it, because it is for the other show, he claims, as per oral tradition, that they gathered up humans by force with whips of what he says lightning. The gods from the sky, that they basically, they would give a lot of gifts to the humans, whatever those gifts may be, but they took power away from them. He said they spoke telepathically. They also, they say it's not a shape-shifting per se. It's like you were saying about these people you were working with. It's almost as though they can, if they want you to see them in a certain way, that is the way that you're going to see them. But basically, he says that they need substances from us for their own selfish purposes. They were actually solid creatures. They had sinister intent, and that they would often do this shape-shifting thing so they can assume the identity, for example, like a princess. So she would marry the prince. Right? So they would sort of get themselves into position. It sounds a little bit like the whole elite thing that's going on, getting into position, but they're not really. But for those who aren't familiar with this guy, and again, Joe and I will get into it a lot deeper on the weekend, but this is who David Icke interviewed, was this man. And he based a lot of his research on that man. And there's an interview on YouTube with this guy. So what do you think about when you hear something like that? Because this guy's like 90 freaking years old or 80 something years old.
I've said this 100 years, why David Icke won't give me an interview. He's wrong about 90% of what he talks about.
Yeah, but I'm saying he comes from this guy who gives his own interview.
He's given the info, even if he takes it from the guy. Okay,
but the guy gave his own interview is what I'm saying. He's on YouTube somewhere.
So all you got to do is this. Remember this, ladies and gentlemen. This is always important. And you judge aliens, humans, and everything by this. Actions always speak louder than words. When the snake gave Eve the apple, he didn't ask for anything in return, and he didn't take her, he didn't bite her, he didn't kill her. That's all he did was give her the apple, and then he went on his merry way. So when you talk to the Dogon, they tell you the exact same thing. They didn't hurt us, they didn't kill us, they just gave us information and helped us move forward with our lives. When you go to the Toltecs, the Mayans, Aztecs, and Incans, they tell you the same thing. So when you cross across about 20 cultures now, they all tell you the same thing. The reptilians weren't here to harm us. And then there's the fact that we are part reptilian. So we're family to them. Out of all the races visiting here, that's why we're the closest to them, because we have a direct kinship.
So what's with this old African Zulu man? This is the oral tradition of his tribe, his ancestors.
And he might have had a bad, somebody way back in his family might have had a bad encounter with her. But you got to remember,
got a bad bunch.
The Greys and the humans can also make you see what they want you to see. So the humans hated the reptilians. Remember, this is why the Greys ended up here.
It's true.
They hated each other because the reptilians directly interfered with whatever the human aliens were doing, and it just pissed them off. And they were going to start a war over this, and then all of a sudden the Greys show up around the time of Christ, or maybe before. But regardless, they showed up, and it all stopped. They're like, no, we're not starting no wars. We work for the light beings. You want to piss the light beings off? Start a war and see what happens. The Greys are far more advanced than either one of those two races. I mean, they use their ships are alive. they can physically meld and enter. And when any contact will tell you this, who's ever seen the three together. When a reptilian or human walks in and there's a gray present, the reptilian or the human will put their head down and walk past the gray before they even speak to him. And they don't speak to them face to face. They speak to them telepathically with their head away from them. That's how much fear is involved there. Because they know, so the human's head is about this long and about this wide. The reptilian's head is about this big, way bigger than ours. But the gray's head is like this and like this. And it's got this big frontal lobes. Nobody wants to mess with them. They're telepathic. See, because they have true telekinesis. They can kill with a thought. Nobody wants to mess with them. They can also knock us out with a thought. People always say, they use the wand. No, they don't. The wand is just an instrument for you. They just knock you out by thinking about it. They also track us through thought. So they can singly identify every human on this planet through thought, or at least the ones that they're keeping tabs on. It's like it's like a fingerprint. Every human has a unique fingerprint. Every human has their brain scans are all unique. So it's the same thing as a fingerprint. So they just lock onto it. By the way, in case y'all notice, ladies and gentlemen, our government is working on this very thing. So starting in 2030, all children at birth will be brain scanned for identification.
Wow.
So now you take your hands, your feet, now they're going to take a brain scan of you. They're saying it's for science, so they much later in life, people who go crazy, they can see what went wrong. Whatever. It's like the same thing. So y'all know you can get a chip in your dog. One of my dogs is chipped now. I'm getting ready to get the other one chipped in a couple of weeks. I've got people I know who went to jail who have chips, so they can they get the ankle bracelet and a chip. So they can tell you anywhere you are. So now what they're offering, this started under Obama and wasn't made public. And I think Biden or maybe the next president will bring it out more. But so if you want to, you can get your kid chip. So from age 0 to age 17 and a half, 18, you can have your kid chip. Now, the rule is going to be that at 18 or 21, if they want it taken out, they can be. And that's what's going to happen. A lot of kids will get it taken out. But each generation, less and less people will have it removed until finally, after 1,000 years or so, or 500 years or so, everybody will have a chip. And it just be normal. And you'll be able to pay your bills with it. You'll be able to do all sorts of things with it. But the chip has to be put in a place that's not easily removable, or people,
deep muscle.
So a lot of parents are going for this because they're scared their kids might be taken. So now you get your kid chipped, and they disappear. But I like it better than this because you can see, because y'all can do this on your cell phones, right? I do this with my son all the time because we both got 12. So I say, "Oh, I see you now. I know where you are. You're being a bad boy, aren't you?" He's like, "Dad, stop it." But the point is you can do this now just with phones. Now you'll be able to do the chip. You pull a program up on
facial recognition, Joe. Look at all the things on social media.
Facial recognition has been
outlawed. Put your face in this person's, like a TV person, like Rambo, let's say. You can put your face in here. Anything like that is facial recognition. Do you know at Pearson Airport in Toronto now, they've been experimenting with facial recognition? No. Well, I don't use it for my phones, but people who are unsuspectedly using these apps are putting it's facial recognition.
Yes, that's how this phone works.
Can I tell you something? Pearson's had that for years. We're never told about it.
Yeah,
great, they've had it for years because it's a way of, you have to understand when they're looking for people who are high risk. It's a quick way of finding them. Facial recognition is also on traffic cameras.
Absolutely.
They're everywhere.
You don't have to make it easy for them.
Oh, and that's a great one. So I was talking to my cousin, he's a detective. I'm not going to say where. I'll just say he's in the city. And him and I got to talking about cameras on your tracking your car. So it's actually illegal for them to track your car. Okay. So they're supposed to be able to take it like in case there's an accident, this or this, and they can look at. They're not even supposed to be able to scan from camera to camera for license plate. That's actually illegal. It's an infringement on your rights because most Americans don't realize this. But your car and your home are the same thing. You have the same rights. The car is considered an extension of your home. That's why all this roadblock is such a big thing in our country. It's a big fight. It still isn't over with because technically it's illegal. They're asking you to prove yourself innocent. They're assuming you're guilty because they're stopping you for no reason and asking you to show that you're not. Oh, it's a sobriety checker. It's a safety checker. It's this, that, or the other thing. No, they do them out in front of my house all the time. I've posted at least 20 videos I'm out there doing. And I'm like, look, guys, I said, what you're doing is illegal. You're infringing on my rights. So technically, you can refuse to show them your ID, and you can refuse to do anything. Of course, they're going to arrest you and take you in. Then you can sue them afterwards because they're illegally arrested you because you weren't breaking any laws. And this has happened.
As long as you don't have anything pending, you can.
So yeah, as long as you don't have anything pending, you're right.
Because you have something pending and they take you in, you're going to stay for a while.
So the way they get around this, different states have different rules. So in Louisiana, 1 hour before a roadblock, they announce it on a radio station, some obscure radio station. It's got to be in the same district you live in. But look, most people don't even listen to music like that anymore. They listen to it on there. So I actually wrote it and said, you need a different way. Here they put it in the newspaper 3 days ahead. Nobody here reads the paper anymore. So, I mean, these are not useful. They need to redo this and put it on a spot on the internet that anybody can see. Well, they don't want to do that because people will just start go there. You know, they have to go another route. They should
do it on your cell phone like Amber Alerts.
Yeah, they should, but they don't want to because then it's not sneaky enough, and too many people who are going to, because the innocent people don't care. They're just going to go through the roadblock and here's my shit and go on. I got stopped one night. I was high as shit too, and I ain't gonna lie. So I was me and Linda, but I had the two dogs.
Kind of left it out.
So, no, because I want to be honest about what happened. So the cop stops me and he looks at me, puts a flashlight in my eyes, and he starts giving me the stare like, I'm gonna pull you out the car. Charlie and Maxie leaped over the top of me and just after this dude, man. I mean, he starts laughing because, Max is this big. He's laughing. He said, get out of here, man. He said, what are y'all going to do? So we're going to get something to eat and we're going back home. He said, get out of here, go on. But if them dogs wouldn't have done that, I'd have been going to jail. I probably wouldn't have been going to jail, but I got a nice long lecture because I was all legal still. And, it's one of the things. I wasn't drinking, so it would have been a lot harder for him to prove anything. And so y'all don't know this. For all you marijuana smoking people out there, I'm going to tell you how you get out of a ticket.
Oh, that's good thing to learn on the outer realm.
Well,
Thank you very much, Joe.
It's a good thing. So if you're a chronic smoker, they cannot judge you by their current values. So each state has their own rules. But the problem is, like Colorado found out, people who smoke every day or smoke 5, 6, 7 joints a day don't get near as high as other people and can function and drive and go to work. It's already been proven because hundreds of thousands of people in our country do it every day. So
build a tolerance.
So when you go in front of the judge, you're like, no, you can go in high. He said, well, how do you think you're looking right now? Judge, you look good. Yeah, you must not be doing it. No, I just smoked 5 joints before I came in. The judge is like, you're out of here. I can't put him in jail. He's completely functional. So it's hard to. With booze, it's easy. 0.2, you smell like alcohol, you get alcohol. Granted, I can drive on a much higher tolerance, but still, that gives them some lee room. But marijuana is a whole different thing. So getting back to the reptilians, going all the way back, that's one of the things they used to do is give people a sense of euphoria. So it's a way of controlling without actually needing to control. So some people say their glands give off a chemical that makes humans feel euphoric.
Like a pheromone.
Yeah, it's like a pheromone. It's probably what it is. But reptilians are strange in the way they do things. So they abduct inside family lines, just like the other two do. But they're abducted inside their own family lines. It's not like the Greys and reptilians. I mean, the Greys and humans. They're abducted in just family lines in general. But the reptilians are actually abducted into the family lines that are closest related to them. So they actually abduct that way. The ones with the most sense of reptilian or whatever blood type happens to run through there is who they're taking. And it's weird because reptilians have genetic memory, and so do the contactees. So one of the problems we have with the contactees is they start having these memories, and they're real to them. Like, oh man, I've lived this. It's no way, but they haven't. Great-great-great-great-grandpa reptilian is who lived that. You just have the memory. There's also one of the reasons why all contactees have more knowledge in their education. It's one of the things you'll find. A real contactee will always be above his own education, far above it usually. It's a strange phenomenon itself, but it's why you know it's a real contactee or not. I've never met a dumb contactee. Never.
Amelia, you had something.
Yeah, because actually, thank you, Michelle, because actually Joe brought it right back so we can bring this in. Deborah Willette writes in Facebook, and please, if you're trying to get our attention, it's a lot easier for all of us to be able to interact with you on YouTube. This way we can tell you just in case you, because otherwise I can let you know on YouTube, I'll get you in 1 second. So I didn't forget about you. But Deborah Willette writes, reptilians I have met in Orlando in 2004 were very respectful and wise. I thought that was very interesting because I've never had anybody say that they've met reptilians.
I've never actually met a nice one.
And how do you know?
because they're different than us. They really truly were. They are an agrarian society. So this is what happened to the reptilians. They started out completely as an agrarian society. They were probably maybe like plant eaters in the beginning or something, because they were very, very not aggressive. Somewhere along the line, the Greys talk about this, and they say that when people are brought to the council, they talk about this. Somewhere far back in our history, probably before humans even walked on this planet, there was a massive war. That's what brought the light beings to our galaxy. The light beings were in a galaxy that was almost dead, and they were leaving. They were looking for a place to go. Their galaxy had extended themselves. They had evolved as far as they could in that galaxy, and they were looking for a place to go. And come to find out, the galaxy they said they came from is actually it's a dead galaxy now. They came to here and found this galaxy in a war with something like 100 different species were just into it. It kind of sounded like if we all went in like one of the world wars. They enhanced the Greys. They found the Greys on this planet, and they enhanced the Greys so the Greys could basically become the galactic police force. And that's what they became. And people don't realize, they always think about these 3-foot Greys, but they forget about the 5 and 6 and the 7 and 9 foot ones. They forget about these, but the Greys are very advanced, much more so than the other races. From what they say, that it's the second most advanced race in our galaxy. So that's why the humans fear them, not just because of their mental abilities, but because of the rest of their abilities and who they work for. You pissing off the Greys is pissing off the light beings. Nobody. Whatever people believe about the light beings, which is usually this awesomeness, and this not just power, they say they can create by thought. They can move through the galaxy by thought. They don't need spaceships. They don't need anything. They can actually take a piece of themselves and put it in you and travel with you. They can do that in several humans at one time if they want to. But they can't overtake a human because their power is too much. It would burn us out in just a few days. People always say, well, I was possessed, but no, you weren't. If a light being possesses you, it's going to do a massive amount of damage to your body. So they don't. They break themselves off in pieces, and it's like a piece of their subconscious, and they just stick it in you, and they can keep track of you if that's what they want to do. But for them, you got to understand, even for the Greys, reptilians, and humans, we're like, the only way nicely I can say this is we are like ants. We're really interested and we're really fascinated, and we're intelligent, but nowhere near where they are. So when we look at ants, we just look at ants. That's the way they look at us. They said one day, yes, we'll become part of the galactic community, but no time soon. We're just, can you come right down to it? We're just stupid. I mean, we pollute our own planet. We shit in the place we eat. I mean, we're just a sad state of affairs. Right now, I'm watching Putin testing out missiles that do, Mach 7, a new stealth bomber. We're putting out new bombers. China's putting out new bombers. We got England parking ships in the South China Sea and next to the Ukraine. I mean, we're on the edge of war, just like we were in 2020 when the Twin Towers happened. We're right back where we were 20 years ago. We're mad, we're hateful, we're a divided species, not just us. The whole planet's like that. You can't go around finding any countries that are really happy where the whole society is happy. America was for about 10 years, but that's because we were blowing the shit up out of the Middle East. Next thing we're going to do is invade Canada and make y'all states.
What?
Yes, that's what Joe Biden said. He said he thinks that Canadians need to be freed. His words, not mine.
We're not arguing.
Wait, he thinks we should be free, but he's blocking us out of his country, but yet we're letting you in.
It's an oxymoron. Look, I'm just saying, it's how
I'm thinking these two got together. I don't want to make it political. I'm thinking these two got together and said, okay, you say we're going to let you in, and I'll say we're not letting you in. And this way, you come into Canada, you can't get back out, so you're not coming into Canada. Because the border to go back when you're driving is closed, even if you're American. So it's like there's no CBSA there, so you're stuck. And I'm like, wait a second.
They told us that we can go to Canada, but we can only fly into Canada and fly out.
Yeah. If you drive in, you won't be able to leave.
So
because the border's closed going home.
I call bullshit because I see more American cars here in Canada, and I have been the entire time, and I see even more right now.
Filming is still happening in Toronto, and they're all from LA. We're talking about actors.
A good friend of mine who lives in Seattle. He went up to visit some friends of ours in BC, and he's like, Joe, he said every car on the road was American. He said you went to the boat launch, you went to the harbor, you went to the restaurants. He said there was no Canadians; it was all Americans. He said I might as well stay in Seattle because I couldn't even see hardly any of my friends. And then he said the cops didn't bother him because for a while everybody was going up there to Vancouver by boat because they weren't messing with him. and they would go eat at the harbor, the restaurants along the harbor. And for some reason, they didn't have a problem with that up there in British Columbia. But all of a sudden, they're like, well, we'll just let y'all in anyway. But it's not even fair to the rest of y'all. And how big is that area? I mean, population-wise, compared to like Quebec and all.
BC, it's small. I think they only have 7 million or something. We've got 15.
Yeah, and then it's Quebec, 7 million. That's size in New York. That's pretty good. That's a good place to go hang out.
Considering Ontario's 15 million and it's all southern, it's not that big. Because they have a big, like, long mass where we're wide. Yeah.
It's it's
Wait,
that's what's strange about y'all.
I thought you folks tracked us by moose. You're hilarious.
Y'all got 38 million people in y'all's country, and 22 of them live in 2 areas. It means the rest of them must be spread out pretty good.
And let me tell you, all the refugees came to those 2 areas as well.
Okay.
Enough politics.
No, this leads into things we're talking about. Because when you deal, well, all right, I will. When you're dealing with these 3 aliens, that is a human alien thing. They believe in that. The Sumerians, every race that was dealing directly with what we call the human aliens, were an enslaved race. The ones dealing with the reptilians weren't. The Toltecs enslaved races, but they weren't. Their people weren't enslaved. The Incans and Mayans, Aztecs, none of their people were enslaved. They were enlightened citizens. Even though they were kind of crazy, they were still enlightened. So the reptilian, and Kublai Kai and some of the other ones were the deities of life. They brought life to, and so they all believe, almost all the South Americans, a good chunk of the Africans, and a good chunk of the old Europeans believed that the reptilians brought life to this planet. Mm-hmm. Maybe they originally were the Martians. Who knows?
They were the original blue bloods, right?
Well, it's funny to us. I had a professor write me a couple months ago about the blood type study. And he said, well, Joe, I'm a little curious, and we talked. He said, no, it's really weird the way you present this. He said, because it does make sense. He said, but I don't understand why it would work out that way. I said, because nobody really stopped to think that the reason we can't find alien blood is because we already possess it. If the humans are A, the reptilians are B, and the grays are O and O negative, then that's where our blood types came from. So we've already got their genes. That's why we have 4,000 junk genes, because it belongs to them, not us. Well, it belongs to us now, but it's not going to activate until later on in our life. So, it does present. He's like, I never thought of it that way. I said, well, look at it from a different point of view. I said, before all this happened, people were brown-eyed, brown hair, brown skin. They were boring. They had O positive blood. They were brown-eyed, brown skin, and brown hair. It was just a boring-ass species. There weren't no redheads. There weren't no blondes. There weren't no sexy brunettes.
You just offended like 3/4 of our audience.
Hey, that's how it is. I can't help it. It's how it is. Oh no, people don't get offended because my wife is brown hair, brown eyed. So don't. It's not that I don't like people like that. It's just it's brown hair, black hair, brown eye. But anyway, regardless, it's not something anybody should be offended about. It's just a fact of life. We can't escape that. Science will tell you at one point for 2 million years. And if y'all believe we came from apes, you got to remember, then you're definitely brown eyed, brown skin, and brown hair. I mean, think about most of the apes in the world. So, they weren't green-eyed. They weren't blue-eyed. They didn't have blonde or red hair. It's not except for orangutans. Bunch of crazy redheads. See, we should know. Orangutans, crazy redheads. But anyway, the point is...
Seriously? What did you just say to me?
Oh, wow.
Orangutans?
And orangutans got funny-looking asses, too. So just saying.
What?
But I'm just saying that was the only ones that didn't. And I don't even know if orangutans existed back then. So I might be wrong. But the point is, guys and girls, so for 2 million years, we were this really boring species. We weren't very educated. We weren't very foresight. Somebody came along and introduced other DNA into our society, and we started to change. And then we started to change more. And then all of a sudden, 35,000 years ago, for no scientific reason, no scientist, you can ask any scientist today, they cannot tell you why Rh negative came to the planet. Nobody can tell you why. And in the beginning, it was a baby killer.
I wanted to ask you this question for the longest time because I've been asked, and I don't know the correct answer. Is Rh negative the same thing as being negative?
No, what do you mean being negative? So you got technically there's 2 types of blood.
Okay. Yeah.
There's Rh positive, which has its genes with the rhesus monkey, and there's Rh negative, which doesn't. And Rh negative is really new. And in our 2 million years of history, it's only been around for 25 or 35,000 years. Whichever, that's a long time. Not really. It's for man, it's not. And before that, there were no green-eyed or blue-eyed or blondes or redheads. They just weren't. I'm telling you, it was a boring ass plan. I'd have been bored out of my mind. And I bet you the people were hairier back then too. I'm just saying, people, don't offend. Less clothes, more hair. Just think about it. Humans got less hairy because we started wearing clothes. Before that, we were all hairy. Oh, look, I got some hairy Italian friends. Oh, Lord, I'm telling you what. When Tony, my good friend Tony Spadoni, when he was 16, that boy looked like he was 35. Get full beard. Anyway, we're not even getting into it. He's probably some kind of weird reptilian.
A hairy one.
Yeah, hairy reptilian. Whatever he was, that boy was hairy, man. It's just unbelievable. But I said, why are you so hairy? None of your ancestors wore clothes? So he started laughing. He said, my grandpa and my uncle just like to run around shorts. I said, oh, well, that makes sense to me now. But the thing of it is nobody can explain where this blood type came from. We got into big arguments. I had 3 different scientific groups write articles on this. The Australian scientific community wrote 2 different articles. They one about the 1.5 billion abductees and another one on this. So they gave me trouble about the first one, and I tore them up about it, and I sent them a whole essay on it. And then they kind of backed off because it made more sense in their argument did. And the local media put it all over their media down. I was getting all kind of invites to come down to Ozzy. I was like, man, that's a long ways to go for a lecture. And then, we put out this thing about the blood type. I got nothing but respect from including this big scientific magazine who really did the hatchet job on me the first time. They're like, he said, man, you really are brilliant. He said, I hate to say it, it's making me rethink your first argument. He said, because you really are, your brain is really scientifically based. And no one can explain why Mother Nature created a blood type that kills babies. It's against bringing in people into life. It doesn't make any sense. Unless she thought the planet was getting too overpopulated. But back then, 35, that was hardly anybody here. 1-2 million people worldwide? I mean, so why would she do this? Just hinder them. Do you know how many babies were stillborn after this?
Mm-hmm.
Until somebody invented the anti-denogen D gene, the shot, which was recent times, it was in the 50s. Yeah. It was even later than that because I didn't have to get a blood test when I married Linda, but my parents had to get a blood test when they got married. And just after that, up until about 10 years before we got married, you still had to have a blood test. And the only reason why is so they could tell you if you were compatible to have children. Because Rh negative and O positive, you could have a stillborn baby. So then they came up with a shot that now because of the shot, it's even come to the point where it's changing our DNA so that we don't have to have the shot anymore. It's a really spooky thing, but why did she create this? And then the other weird things is that Rh negative people have different types of personality. They also have more green and blue eyes, and they seem to be in more higher position in the world.
Excuse me, boss man, guest. We need to do a station ID.
Oh, yeah, you better.
I got right into there.
I'm tapping on the cup. I'm trying everything.
Gosh.
I was looking for my coffee cup.
I put my glasses on my head.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I'm doing one of these. Nobody's paying attention to me.
Oh my
gosh.
God.
Love you, folks.
Okay. We do. Right now you are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and myself, Amelia Pisano. And tonight is our favorite guest ever and always, our producer, our boss, and the amazing Joe Montaldo. And we are talking Sumerians, ET, and believe it or not, Adam and Eve, just a little bit.
Well,
and we're into reptilians right now. We are on International Public Radio. We are United Public Radio. Are we still United Public Radio?
Yes,
and the other one is Gods and Extraterrestrials.
And soon they will be. There will still be a new United Public YouTube page in the near future.
Cool. And we are airing live on FM on 105.3, and I believe it's still in New Orleans. New Orleans, we love you so much. You know what we also love? We love Folgers Coffee. Thank you for fully sponsoring our show. We love you,
Folgers. I bet you the boss of Folgers watching right now. He's probably like sipping on his Folgers.
Yay, and I love you. Thank you, sir.
sipping a little brandy with it.
That's okay.
It's almost strange though, because I mean, it's we did a thing right after we found this out. So first thing we did was check in Hollywood. How many people have green or blue eyes or red hair or blonde hair? Well, obviously it's not all red hair does that. So it's obviously the majority of them were blue-eyed, green-eyed, or a combination of color and blonde or different color hairs. There's not that even the brown-headed women. There are a lot in there, but you see more black hair, more blondes, and more redheads because it catches your attention more, just like eye colors catch your attention more. So let me ask you a question. Why are so many bosses blue or green eyed, male or female? Why are so many presidents and people in power blue and green eyed? Is it because they're more intelligent, or is it because they get more attention? It could be any of those reasons. But it's a fact that they are, and not just in this country, in any country. So you got to kind of step back and wonder what it is that these people share in common. And then you have to wonder how many of these, only remember, Rh negative is only 15% of the world's population. That's it. And about 10% of them serve either in some type of politics, some type of upper business, or in some type of theater or something along those lines. Why? Are they that much more aggressive than the rest of us? Are they that much more intelligent? Is it something, is there a different drive they have than everybody else does? You know, when I brought this up to a group of scientists, they were like, no. And it was a big argument. It was at a lecture. I love going to lectures, especially like at Tulane or any Ivy League school. And it got a big argument. And then 6 weeks later, they had another one. And the guy's like, I come over to listen. He said, I want you to come up here on stage for a minute. He said, you're absolutely right. He said, we spent the last 3 weeks, every professor in this group, which was more than 70 of them, said, the more we checked, the more we found. He said, well, don't get me wrong, we found a lot of brown-eyed people because, you know, they make up the majority. He said, but since blue and green-eyed or Rh negative people only make up 15%, you've got to wonder why so many of them are in positions of power or in positions that they can make you think about something or do something.
It's true.
Influence, yes.
I mean, that's this whole, you know, we have half the world that thinks the elite are reptilians and the other half thinks you're all crazy. But I mean, is there not a little grain of truth to some of these conspiracies?
Well, that might
you wonder.
But my problem's always been, you got skull and bones, you got the black hats, you got whatever they call the Templars now since they were reborn. Mm-hmm. You've got the Bilderbergs. You've got several groups out there. So people always say, oh, they're going to conquer the world. Why? The bitches can't even agree with each other. That's always been my problem about elite taking over. They hate each other. This elite over here thinks this elite over here is garbage. This elite over here thinks this elite over here is garbage.
But there's still a hierarchy. You know, those that we know as the royal families and
by the way,
even the Rothschilds are actually lower on the food chain than some of the darker families, the larger families who own all of our pharmaceutical companies, and like there's but
that's a problem though. But that's always been the problem. They don't agree with each other. So this one's got this much money over here. It's like to use. They all of them got all this money and all this power, but they just don't agree. So it's I always have to say the same thing. If these 6 or 7 families or groups ever decide to agree with other, we the people are screwed. There's no way we'll be able to stop it. They have too much power, too much control. What saves us, we the people, is they just can't get along with each other. You know, the bigger worlds hate the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds hate the Masons. The Masons hate the Skull and Bones. So, you know, it's a competition. And they think only one family can win, but they can't. They will have to merge together. I shouldn't even say this on air because they might be listening. They have to merge together in order to conquer us. And for some reason, in 2,000 years, they haven't been able to do it. They just can't get along. And if they would,
power. Nobody likes to share it.
And because you got the same groups in the United States as you do in Russia and China and other places. And as you can see, these 3 countries are purged and blow the crap out of each other. Poor Canada is just going to be a fallout land if this happens. Do you realize if we nuke Russia, all the fallout comes to Canada? All of it. It's not even going to come to the United States. Now, if we nuke China, on the other hand, most of it's going to come to the United States. And if we nuke lower United States, most of it's going to go to Europe. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. You decide to nuke somebody, you're killing yourself. Even if they don't have nukes, you're still killing yourself. Unless you use low-yield tactical neutron bombs. Shh, I didn't say that out loud. Then it might be a different story. But the problem is the president of the United States and his little group don't agree with this little group or that little group, and they just don't want to agree.
It's like cliques. It's almost like freaking high school. It's like ridiculous.
They just hate each other.
So nobody wants to share power, Joe. Nobody.
No, they don't. And I think that's why the aliens have such an easy time here. Because they know, because if the groups would get together, they might be able to put up some kind of resistance against the aliens. At least one of the races at a time. Because as a group, we could unite our technologies, get together with whether this one has, that one has, this one has, and put it together. And, you know, the United States has badass railguns now. They might be able to damage a saucer or one of the other ships. Maybe not a saucer, but maybe one of the other ships. And if they were radioactive or had a different type of projectile that maybe had an energy involved in it, something that could maybe net a ship, they might have a chance. But the problem is we don't get along. We just can't do it. Do you realize if Russia and China, America and Europe could agree just to work together, we would make leaps in science that people would not even believe, and how fast it would go would be unbelievable. Because religion would be out of the way and power would be out of the way, and it would just be research for research. But Putin, I don't know what Putin's after. He's about to kick the bucket, so I'm not even sure what he's after. Biden's the same way. I don't know what he's after. He's about to kick the bucket. Xi Jinping, he ain't about to kick the bucket, but nobody's about to give him the reins to anything. So, I mean, that lets the aliens have free realm on our planet. They can go and come as they want. We can't put up mass weapons in space because the other country's going to get mad. So when Reagan was building these lasers to defend us from outer space with the Britons, China and Russia was having a fit about it. In the end, I think Russia and China realized the lasers they were building were way too big and way too powerful for shooting down missiles. These were designed for something much bigger and something much better. And then Russia got the idea maybe it's to wipe out cities, which could be true. But in the end, we know because they formed Pine Gap, and Pine Gap is a joint British defense of outer space. I didn't even know there was anything in outer space to defend us from. Obviously, the president, whoever was, I don't know who was prime minister at the time, but president was Reagan. He did Pine Gap, Star Wars.
I don't remember. I'd have to
what about
that.
What about the Dark Fleet? What about the Space Force? All the exopolitic people think that are out there.
Yeah, then
going back to World War II.
So why when Donald Trump created Space Force, we didn't find out more about it? And why is DARPA flying such a big piece of crap in space when it's supposed to be the most advanced technology in the country or in the world for that matter? So you got to wonder. So this is how I judge things. Okay, we're pretty advanced right now, way more so than we were 100 years ago. But we're not advanced enough for deep space exploration. We just don't have those technologies yet. We don't have things like artificial gravity.
Oh God.
Faster than light technologies. At least not that they're showing us, but you can also tell that because no one of any consequence has ever said anything about these tech. All the astronauts, even the ones with high clearances, always said the same thing. No, we can't quite figure out how to make it work. DARPA would do it tomorrow. And do you realize that somebody figured out artificial gravity, how many hotels would pop up in space overnight? So we know these technologies aren't available to anybody at this time. It's like telekinesis. When people tell me, oh, we can do this, we can do that. No, because if we had telekinesis, Nancy Pelosi would be dead. I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton would be dead. Xi Jinping would be dead. Putin would be dead because Trump would have hired all these people and all of his enemies would be dead. And they would have died from brain embolisms. It was just, oh, he had a heart attack. Oh, he squeezed an artery and killed him. They would just die of natural causes, so no one would ever know. So we know we don't have those technologies, and we know the Russians and Chinese don't either. So I don't think telekinesis actually exists in any real form in our world. What I mean by that is I've met people who could do things like slam doors and move nickels and coins around, but they couldn't go into your brain and find an artery and squeeze it. They don't have that kind of tech yet. They don't have that kind of ability yet. We know there's pretty good telepaths, and we know there's pretty good remote viewers, but not even to the point where they're really that useful for the government yet. Because if they were, in World War II and in Vietnam and Korea, we would have used them to target things. We wouldn't have got our ass kicked in Vietnam, would we have? Because we'd have known where everything was and we'd have took it out. Well, obviously, we didn't have that tech thing. We're not using it now to go against Chinese or even to put our ships and planes and boats in strategic places that we knew they had stuff because we don't know. See, again, actions always speak louder than words. So there's always a lot of words out there that says this. I met what's his name? I've interviewed him a couple of times. The guy who's in charge of remote viewing. What the hell is his name? He's been on Coast to Coast a million times after they shut the program down. And remote viewing is good for a lot of things, but it's not good for the things that we need it to be good because if it was that great, we would have never closed. Colonel Ed Dames, we would have never closed the program down. And so now we got the telepath program. Well, the Navy and Air Force has a telepath program. But even that is got to be limited because Russia jumped on us in 3 things that we didn't even know they had. Even the Pentagon said it caught them off guard. So if we had advanced telepaths, why didn't we know this? We should have known this,
Go ahead, Amelia.
Thank you, Michelle. I think it's really funny, Joe, that you said, I don't know who was the Prime Minister of Canada at the time during the Reagan administration. So I Googled it because I can't remember because I was just a baby at the time. So It was in fact our shortest sitting prime minister, Brian Mulroney, who only served 9 months because he was removed from
Kim
Parliament.
Campbell, I think, was last, wasn't she?
After him was John Chrétien. After him, so he came in
John
because the
Crichton,
Conservatives went out in the
on Farscape.
John Chrétien, no, and he came. Yeah, he came back. I think he just passed away as well recently. But I just thought it was really funny that, and they're showing a video of the two meeting, Reagan and Mulroney, that you said you didn't know who it was, and I had to Google it. I can't believe he was the shortest sitting prime minister, 9 months. That's what happens when you live in Canada.
So you need to know who else was.
You suck, we boot you out.
So, but you need to know who else was Prime Minister of Australia and Prime Minister of Britain, and you can find out what was going on with Reagan. There was a little quiet triad going on there, and they decided that Reagan cracked me up. I mean, he instituted all three of these programs, and then he goes and gives 7 speeches about what would happen if aliens invaded our planet. Really? Not a president before him or a president after him has ever given one of these speeches about him.
Okay, so why is it always that? Like, are we just being led down this, like, the same road where they've all been leading us down? Invasion. They never, anytime you're seeing videos come out now by the military or the government, it's always you're under attack. They're being chased. They're being swarmed. Like, are we being primed, for alien invasion? And if so, why?
Maybe false alien invasion.
Exactly what I mean.
Yeah, because if you, again, ladies and gentlemen, actions speak louder than words. So the aliens have been here for at least 35,000 years or more. Most people think at least 2 million since man started.
They have a relationship with them, contrary to what they want to say. Yeah, so why are we being primed for that?
Because it's a grab for power. So and like COVID was. COVID was a grab for power. Actually, money's not as important as it used to be anymore. Power is more important than money. Power is a major aphrodisiac. Don't get me wrong, money's a great thing. But when you shut a society down, no, you don't need money if you have complete control. So if you pull power like they did with COVID, okay, how much money disappeared out of the United States during COVID? Nobody was spending money anywhere. With the exception of like Amazon and the grocery store, nobody was making money. But yet somehow or another, our military kept growing, the country kept moving, people still were eating and drinking and smoking. Yeah. Now, nobody was making any money. So it looks like, I would have to say it was a grab for power, but it would have to be a global grab for power because the United States couldn't just say, hey, we're being invaded, and Canada, well, what about us? Mexico, what about us? All of Europe, you go, well, what if y'all get invaded? What about us? So it would have to be something, at least the G20 would have to agree on it. They would have to agree, and then they could say they could fake some kind of shit coming in and have these things coming down, make these ships coming down, and at least then we could arm ourselves, declare martial law across the world, and change the world to, well, basically to a communist state. Well, a socialist state, probably closer, but the problem is they found out Americans and Europeans ain't going for it. If we'd have stayed locked down for more than another 6 months, there'd have been a revolution in our country. And it wouldn't have been each other. It would have been against the government. And since the military already said they wouldn't get involved, well, at least the politicians holding the bag. So, so how do you do this in a constructive way? The problem here is, again, it's egos. Everyone would have to agree. Well, Angela Merkel ain't agreeing with anybody. She's just a bitch. Even though I love her to death, she's a bitch from hell. Egon, both in Turkey and in France, they're not going along with it because they think they're already poop don't stink. Putin thinks he's the greatest thing since cracked wheat. Xi Jinping thinks he's the greatest thing since gold. And then we don't even want to talk about Biden and y'all's little lover up there. So, at this point, it's almost impossible to pull this off. So the conspiracy groups love it because they can get people going and scared. But again, if you judge the aliens by their action, if they wanted to conquer the planet, why didn't they do it 2 million years ago when there was, a handful of humans on the planet? They could have wiped us out with a disease in no time at all. Why give us sentient? If we truly started out as a slave race, which almost everybody believes, then why give us sentient? Why allow us to become sentient? And after we became sentient, why not just wipe us out? So I always tell contactees the same thing.
Well, isn't that what the flood was about?
Yeah, well, they tell you all the time that They're here to help us or they're here to kill us. Okay, actions speak louder than words. They're not killing us and they're not helping us. Oh, we're going to have an enlightened planet. Really? I'm 58 years old. Aliens been around at least that long, and this planet ain't even close to enlightened. Most of the people I know wouldn't know what enlightenment was. They thought it was a lightning bolt hitting them in the ass. I mean, really. And then as far as eating us and killing us, we're still here. Matter of fact, now there's 7.5 billion of us. At the rate we're growing, they're going to be 15 billion in no time. Maybe they want to get us up so we can fatten up and get to select like the Kobe beef. Maybe that's what they're after. When we get to 15 billion, they can go through and pick and choose what they want. I don't think that's what it is. Because again, if wiping us out was their goal, we'd be gone. We wouldn't even be here. They could take something like COVID, enhance it to something, enhanced disease. We'd never be able to stop it. It'd kill almost everybody on the planet except for the contactees. They'd probably be the only ones left. And again, the contactees, all of them, well, not all of them, but 1/3 of them have the Holocaust dream that suggests sooner or later, 82% of the planet's going to bite the big one. 85% of the planet's going to bite. It always bothers me.
Or is it memories from Mars?
Could be that too. If we're an ascended race, and what I mean by an ascended race, that we move from one planet to another, we may have genetic memories left from the past.
Yeah.
And then there's the other problem too. A lot of times we talk about the greys, reptilians, and humans being from other worlds of deep space, but everybody forgets before the asteroid collisions, Earth, Mars, and Venus were inhabitable planets. 50 million years ago, all 3 of these planets were inhabitable. So what happened? Well, we know something passed through the Oort cloud and sent asteroids because Mars has 2 moons that are asteroids, and you can see the big-ass impact that created Olympus Mons on the other side of the planet. It was huge. We know there was a huge impact here, and they're almost positive that's what sent Venus into its global warming was an impact of some kind. So it wasn't an attack. Did somebody go out there? And this is where it gets a little sticky. A lot of people believe that the asteroid belt was a planet at one time. See, astronomers say that it was a planet that didn't form. But recently they have found compounds that can only be created under great pressure, like a planet forming. So now they think maybe it was a planet. Maybe the tidal forces of Jupiter and Mars pulled it apart and destroyed it, and it sent asteroids all over, and that's what sent Earth, Mars, and Venus and took us to Astro. And if there were life on those planets, they would have had to go somewhere else if they had the technology. Being Earth is the closest, but even Earth took a big whack. So they would have probably had to go outside of the solar system and then come back, and this would have been the first planet that repaired itself. Eventually, Venus will cool down and become a planet like Earth. Its upper atmosphere, by the way, is identical to ours. So they know at one time it was like Earth. They know Mars was like Earth at one time. We know they had water on it, had tidals. We know the whole damn thing. So
maybe that's where all these apocalyptic dreams are coming. Maybe we've already experienced it,
Because if especially with the reptilians, we know genetic memory is real. It might be there.
Well, it's scary to think that it's something that it's like a premonition,
But the problem with the Holocaust dreamers is they know the towns they're in. They know the places they are. So here's a good one. So there's 10 people traveling together, all contactees. Now 5 of these are what we call the enlightened contactees. These are contactees who have their abilities boosted. They actually put in a new body so they could go find contactees around the planet and bring them to wherever the ships were meeting at to take them off world. So here's a group of 10 of them. There's 5 contactees that were traveling with them that were being brought somewhere. They go to Houston. They know it's Houston. Now, they talk about the cars were much different looking than the way the cars do now. So they're figuring, and every time you walked past a building, a face would pop out of you and start talking to you about what's the last thing you bought on the internet. I feel for all you porn lovers. I feel for you people. I'm just saying. Oh, such and such. What's your last name? Shh, please don't say nothing. But that's technology that'll be around. We've banned that in the United States. It'll take us another 50 years, maybe 80 years before it gets unbanned. So, but there's other technologies they talk about are probably further out than these are. So when you listen to the types of text they talk about, like the girl was talking about the car, it was kind of round and shaped different, and it looked like, the guy was saying it looks like the wheels would fold under, so it was probably a flying vehicle of some sort. Or a hover.
So that's still a ways off in the future.
Yeah, so we're talking, but when they talk about the population, 9 to 12 billion, that's not that far in the future. 100, 200, 300 years. We are, by the way, in case y'all noticed, ladies and gentlemen, they already have flying cars, finally. They said it was going to be in 2000. I used to watch the Jetsons and all the world fairs. We were going to have flying cars. Finally, we have them. They came up with a 2-seater now that can fly. They got a couple different, but they're not cars in the way we think of cars. You're not going to land them and go driving around. They're really hover cars. They're not really made to drive on the surface. So we haven't quite got to that point yet, but
it's a start.
It is. It's a move in the right direction. What do you mean? I want a damn flying car, people.
They should make it solar powered. Hi, Wayne.
I'm gonna change my last name to Jetson, and I want my flying car. I ain't changing my first name to George. I'm sorry, but I'll say Joe Jetson. There we go. Go Joe Jetson, or Joe Go Jetson.
We've got everything else. We order food off of the internet. We order groceries. We order. We shop.
A friend of mine
work out online.
Yeah. A friend of mine says, I don't want to order groceries from the store. And because you don't know what they're going to give you. I said, well, they got a couple of stores down here now that you can see what they're picking. You can say you want this one or that one or this one, while the person is walking around making your order for you. And then they'll drive it to your house for no extra charge.
No, it's a monthly fee. That's why.
No, not these. This is just you call in.
That's good. Here it's a monthly fee.
But garbage. I mean, food's so high right now; it's ridiculous. I mean, ground meat, I think, is.
It really is very expensive right now.
So, but I mean, so if anybody was here to eat us, kill us, they would have already done it. I mean, they could be waiting. Maybe they're waiting for critical mass for the planet to reach 12 or 15 or 20 billion.
Maybe we're not in season yet. Like strawberries or cherries.
It's I mean, we've been around for a long time. So, but most scientists agree that this planet can hold about 26 billion people, and that's it. That's our max, and that's if you convert most of America and South America to farmlands. I didn't know this, but the majority of farmland is on this side of the world, not on that side of the world. And start growing plankton in the ocean along with a couple other things that can mass produce oxygen. So we can do it like that. And everybody can eat and be fed and still, but that's it. That's the maximum population. So, and before we ever reach that, we will be off world on lots of other places. Even if it's rough and tumble, a lot of people are going to go to Mars. It's going to be like the Wild Wild West. That's why people like that. One of the things that made America, Canada, and Australia is the fact that these crazy people from Britain or criminals from Britain came over because they wanted something different. They wanted a new life. We hear Elon.
Pioneer a new life, yeah.
You hear Elon. He wants to take a whole freaking colony to the Mars and give them a new world, a whole different way where you don't have stairs in your house. You just jump from floor to floor to floor. You can do a lot of stuff there you can't do here. I mean, it's just so people are looking for this, and a lot of people will go. More people. I was surprised when I applied for the first Mars mission, and they sent me the paperwork back, and I talked to the guy. He said over 200,000 people applied in the first week.
Wow.
So for the second Mars mission, over 2 million applied in the first week. And from what I hear about what's going on with Elon, there are several million people. They're like, so you could have a colony of 10, 15 million people on Mars in no time at all if you can feed them. And they said you could put probably at least 10 million or 20 million in Olympus Mons alone and be totally safe from anything outside. And if you close up the holes, you can raise the pressure. You won't need suits. You won't even have to wear a mask. And we've designed special plants just for that. And they still think they're going to find life on Mars. Not like little grays or little anything like that, but they think they're going to be pockets where there's water underneath the ground. There's probably oxygen from the plants themselves that are making it. So they do think they're going to find. Of course, I predicted that 30 years ago, NASA. Catch your ass up. I said this 25 years ago. The only way we'll ever become number one in space is to privatize. And look what happened. We privatized. We got 5 spaceships all built in under 5 years. The Chinese don't even know what to think about it. Now, don't get me wrong. They've done 22 space missions in the last year. We've done 24 and 24. We've done 48. And these are private. And look at their craft. They don't crash like NASA's do. And don't get me wrong, people. I know people get mad at me. I'm a big NASA fan, a big space fan. But these ships are much better than anything.
And they're private money. They're not taking from the taxpayers. It's not coming from us. Let them spend their money.
They even give NASA money to help out with certain things. So, you know, I know the Japanese applied to put a space hotel up. They had to ask us for some silly reason.
Mm-hmm.
I know 2 private companies are planning on putting hotels up. I forgot which one it is. Virgin Mobile are going to start selling trips to space for under $100,000, and they said it's going to go down from there. So pretty soon, anybody who wants to go to space will be able to go to space. Now, I say that when you because I've been at the crest of the planet, so technically I've been in space, but technically I haven't been. So I was in the point where you lost gravity, so you could float, but we weren't actually in space because if we were, the plane we were in would have never got back down. It would have just floated away because it didn't have any kind of jets that would move it left to right or up and down. It needed to be in the atmosphere where it was. And we didn't even get there. He crested the ship before we got there, and you could feel yourself just lift. But he hit the engine, and we went straight back down. If we wouldn't have, we'd have been floating our ass in space. I'd have been dead because there was nothing to retrieve you with. So there's a lot doing that. And I know Virgin Airlines is doing it, a couple other companies, but going in space is going to be much different. Of course, you will be floating unless somebody tackles it, gravity, which they might. I'm sure there's a lot of ways you can make gravity without spinning a big wheel around in circles. Don't take this wrong, NASA and everybody else, but this is 2021. I think we can get past the big flying wheel. Okay, I'm just saying. Come on, guys. I mean, if we got to do it, we got to do it. But real quick. So if we're living on NASA and you get pregnant, you're going to have to go live in a particular area that has a 1G environment, or your baby's going to be born all messed up. They were showing like chicks and other animals born in space. You can't do that. So you'll have to spend X amount of time every day in that 1G environment so that your baby will be born normal. And even while this child is growing up, it will have to spend X amount of time in there. As it is, we lose massive amounts of bone mass when we're in space. But you do gain 2 inches in height, shorties. So if everybody's short, you go spend a couple of weeks in space, you're going to get 2 inches taller.
I heard about that, but it doesn't last. Joseph
it doesn't. It uncompresses your spine. It lasts for about 2 weeks when you get home.
Oh my God, that's still worth it. Joseph Mines writes, Joe, NASA has to worry about military projects that they have to put first. Private companies do not, and that is a big factor.
That's true, except for Boeing and Lockheed. They have to work on their government projects as well, but yet they're still putting people in space. When you're big enough, you can do both. NASA is unfortunately not big enough. It's funded by us and military projects, so it can only grow so big. Boeing, unfortunately, is massive. Lockheed's massive. Elon Musk is the third or fourth richest man in the world. These guys are spending, and you've got 3 of the biggest entrepreneurs in the world. They're going to space and they're enjoying it. They're having
Jane,
fun.
you need to go there. Jane's only
you'd be 5 foot when you came back.
That's beautiful.
You'd be 5 foot.
I tower over you. I love it. There's very few people I tower over.
My first 2 girlfriends, one was 4'9" and 89 pounds, and the other one was 4'10" and about 100 pounds. Yeah, they were teensy weensy, man.
Teeny weeny, yeah. Jane, you're
second now.
Small things, great come. Like great things come in small.
And
packages,
you know what? They were both Italian women.
Yeah, the southern Italians are small shorter. Packages. Yeah, exactly. But northern Italian, they get taller because you have the Alps and you have the it's like you've got Switzerland immigration and Slavic and stuff. So the height goes up as you go up further north.
And then the next girl I think I dated was 6 foot. With her heels on, she was 6'2", 6'3". I was like, I said, girl, I'm always looking right here. Come on, you got to get shorter. People are gonna wonder what's going on here. Yeah, I can't help it. It was like that. Hey, Zach. Nice. Thanks, man.
It's 11, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. We got to go. I didn't. We don't.
Yes. So yes, exactly.
Good thing the owner of the network's on.
I know, right?
I can tell him to go bite himself.
I know.
I can say, owner, bite yourself. It's the end.
There we go. There we go.
The owner might have a fit. Oh, I got to put Lola on. She's a demon. Y'all gonna love this dog.
Oh, can't wait.
She is a demon. She's already boxing with me. She's like 2 inches tall, might weigh a pound if she's lucky, and she wants to slap fight with me. She come and got on my chest today. I'm like, "What are you doing?" Then she starts biting on my beard. Whoa, calm down, dog. And so she already whooped Linda because Max used to like to sit behind Linda's neck and go to sleep when we were driving or sitting in the house because he's so little. First thing she goes, jumps up there. He's possessed. He's possessed. We're talking about Lola. And then it was weird. I got these crepe myrtles in the backyard, and Max is buried in one, and Charlie's buried on the other one. They ain't bloomed in like 5 years. They both bloomed beautiful white flowers this year, both of them. I was like, don't know if it means anything, people. If you think your pets are around, that maybe it does.
That's it.
And see, they didn't even let me talk about the Sumerians. It's bad. It's bad.
What the freaking ever? You didn't stop talking at all.
Amelia, man.
You talk about whatever you want.
Well, don't worry. Michelle and I are going to talk about this in a couple of weeks, but we got other stuff coming up right now. We're talking about the gray zone incident on Saturdays. Y'all better be there or be square, baby, because you can't get it no other place. There's no reruns to watch. Last I checked, the other rerun was like at 600,000 or something. Because we don't put it out. And it will be on YouTube soon enough. I might put it on Podbean, but y'all better get it while you're getting this good. If you don't listen, you can get to hear it. I'm still getting cussed by people because I put part 3 up and not part 4. They're like, well, where's the other part? I said, I told you should have been there Saturday. You're not going to make it available. I said, nope, it's not going to be available. Joe, that's so
Be faithful,
wrong.
people. Be faithful.
All
right.
God.
I have to sign us off. So again, we've come to another awesome segment. End of another awesome segment here on the Outer Realm. Thank you, Joe, for tuning in and your wealth of information and just a whole lot of fun. And huge thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring tonight's show. Thank you. Remember to stop by International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, and whatever that other one was. UFOs, Gods, and Extraterrestrials. There we go. And don't forget about us on Outer Realm on Facebook and on Instagram, please. And if you'd like to drop us a line, please do so at the Outer Realm Contact@gmail.com. Again, the Outer Realm Contact@gmail.com. Tune in next Wednesday as we welcome back Mr. Sean Williamson. And going to be some Templar talk. And let me tell you what, this guy has got a lot.
This guy was a Templar at one time.
Thursday night welcomes author Tom Cromwell to the show for the very first time, and he's going to be talking UFOs.
Oh, and we got 3 books left, 2 part of the L. Ron Hubbard collection.
Let's do it.
I'm probably going to give them away. Oh, I'll give away one tonight.
Okay,
so,
do it.
I'll tell you what, whoever can get close to our listening audience tonight, I'll give you one of the 3 books, whichever one you want. No, you can't have the skull, so don't even ask. That came from a friend of mine who's passed, Lloyd Pot. But anyway, if
try to guess how many listeners we had tonight. Is that what it is?
And he tasted good. So what can I tell you? But guess how many listeners? You don't have to get perfect, and I'll tell you it's more than 1 million. So if you can guess, I'll give you one of the books. If you hit it within 500, I'll give you all 3.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah, not a
That
shotgun
is
would get it.
huge.
Good. Y'all can get it, but I'll even be nice. I'll tell you it's over 1.5. Okay, and y'all got to go from there. So,
and then you have to email Joe where?
At iCartCox.net. So if you can figure it out, get close, I'll give you one. If you get within 5,000, I'll give them all to you. Because I'm running out fast. I'm getting ready to order some more because we're going to do another collection. I've been doing, this was their last collection, their latest collection. I'm going to go backwards now toward it. There's 37 of these books. So
wow.
I'm going to bring back one of the new ones when I come back from LA in October. Anyway.
There we have it, guys. Start figure it out. Email Joe.
Me a steak,
who gets the books. There we go. So again, thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next week. All behave yourselves. For real.
Oh, wait, I got to put the thing out. No, I don't.